and it is a cooperative boss battler that can be played both as one-off scenarios or as an overarching campaign. This is a vampire-themed boss battler, so each of the bosses that you're going up against is going to be some form of a vampire, with of course some of these being more powerful than others as you work yourself up the hierarchy. Each of the scenarios offered in the game is going to have its own unique setup and different points of interest that are going to be placed out on the main board. And of course, they will have different objectives that players are trying to complete as they're trying to defeat that specific boss. The game alternates between a night phase and a day phase, where during the night phase, players are going to be taking actions and fighting the vampires and monsters. Then the day phase is where you're going to be able to pay for different abilities and upgrades and try to set yourself up as best you can for the following night. Players are going to be playing as their own unique character with their own unique deck of action cards, which also doubles as their health. Players will each have their own player board to keep track of all of this, as well as any items and gear that they find along the way, which of course can grant you with all sorts of different effects and abilities. The centerpiece of the night phase is this night board, which is going to be walking you through the various steps of that phase, and this can be populated with different cards throughout the game, with each type of card being isolated to a particular part of that board. The cards that do accumulate on this board do get activated in a particular order, and you're going to be starting by activating the events, and then you're going to be activating the player's action cards, and then the minions' actions, and then finally the main boss. This is why the day phase is so important, because this is going to give players more opportunities to modify that board, which is inherently going to be affecting the way that the night phase plays out. Of course, players are going to have very limited control over the events, the minions, and the boss cards, so it is up to you to make sure that you're playing the appropriate action cards to mitigate the negative effects of the other cards as much as possible. But there's a ton of variety across these action cards and even more variety across the different characters, and players are going to be using this to resolve the different actions that those cards grant, move around the board, attack different enemies, interact with different points of interest, and help their fellow players to eventually take out that final boss. Combat in this game is resolved using dice rolling, and players are going to be trying to roll dice above a certain value in order to land a successful hit. Of course, the items you have or the weapons you're using could be used to either augment those rolls or increase the amount of damage that you deal for a successful hit. But something that's nice about this game is that you are also somewhat rewarded for your failures as well. So if you're not landing those successful hits, you're at least going to be moving up this track for your failures. And as you move up that track, it's going to be granting you access to certain bonuses. And anytime on a future turn, you'll be able to cash out that track to get the associated bonus. The rounds continue like this, back and forth between the day phase and the night phase, and then you're going to be resolving the order of the cards on that night board, going through the events, the player's actions, and then the minions and the final boss. And then if the players are able to defeat the boss, then they win that scenario. And if you want to check this one out, I do have it linked in the description down below.